up is Zach. So give it up for Zach. Woo!
Yeah. I'm just gonna kind of record myself from here with the flashlight on the page. It's something different. Okay. Because well, so this is a brand new short story. I just wrote this like a couple months ago. It's called Rogues and Monkeys. Jonah exited the menagerie, burping a bit with his hands shoved in his trouser pockets, and continued next door to the artsy coffee house, a group of 20-somethings chattering and laughing around a table in the front patio. Hey! One of the girls in the group shot him a look with one raised eyebrow. Jonah halted. You playing pocket pool? She asked him, grinning ear to ear. Jonah's hands darted from his pockets and he exited stage left into the shelter of the coffee house. There was a long line of customers at the counter. As Jonah stood in line, he pulled a folded spiral notebook from his left back pocket and methodically composed a note on a sheet of paper in red ink and tore it out. He reached the counter. Jonah, Miss Bean greeted him pointedly. Not mean, just pickled. Jonah slid the sheet of paper across the counter beside the cash register very casually. Bean's head tilted. What is Jonah up to now? She unfolded the note. Backdoor beauty? The question mark was emphasized. Bean fought back her smile, rolling her eyes. What is this? What's this supposed to mean? She demanded. That's the name of a horse I used to own, ma'am, explained Jonah. What's wrong with you? Jonah, we're very busy tonight. She breaks from character. What do you want, a coffee? A cup of the old Joe, to be certain, he answers. I must obey the inscrutable exhortations of my soul, he is grinning widely. My mandate also includes weird bugs, shot Bean as she poured his coffee. She rang him up. Here, said Jonah. Earth money, he explained. As Jonah walked back toward the front of the coffee shop, he chirped back at her. Wacky zany Bean, wacky zany, she chimed. At a chair to the left of the front door is a young woman whom Jonah had met several times, but he was spacing on her name. Jonah slowed to a stop and waved at her in a mild way. Sit down, Jonah, she suggested pleasantly. He did so. The two sat in silence for a moment. Her eyes were on her phone as Jonah tasted his coffee with slight glances in her direction. Jonah, she said pointedly, not looking up from her phone, will you do something for me? Sure. She turned to stare at him calmly. Pinch my arm right here, she indicated her upper right arm. Pinch you? Yeah, keep pinching my arm, hard. Use your dominant hand. Okay. He complied, pinched her arm. Harder. Why? That's not hard enough. Hard as you can. Jonah twisted the flesh of her arm tightly as she stared at him in the face, and her stare became a glare. She was glaring at him with open contempt now. What the fuck, dude? Jonah protested, releasing his grip. Her voice turned mock male. Ooh, owie, and don't call me dude. And with that note, I'm out of here. He took to his feet. She rolled her eyes. Seeing that the pool shark and her party had left, Jonah took refuge outside on the front patio. He took a third sip of his coffee when he remembered that caffeine after alcohol always gave him anxiety. A slight discomfort, a tightness began in his solar plexus. His right leg began to twitch. He inhaled deeply. Jonah glanced to his left past the gay bar to a man lurking in front of Worthington's Tavern next to the menagerie. The man's eyes met his. The man strolled over to the table beside Jonah. The man over beside Jonah. The man released a breath of amused exasperation. You're so insecure, bro. Jonah hesitated, searching his brain for a comeback. No, I'm not. A quick sarcastic syllable with, yes, you are. Jonah almost flipped the bro off, but stood up and made his way back inside the coffee shop, avoided the clamoring crowd of people, ignoring the open mic, and sought solitude on the back patio, considering throwing the last half of his coffee into the garbage. Jonah suddenly had a depressive mood swing. He sat down at the only empty table closest to the door. His tears were almost emerging. A young woman dressed in punk rock gear sat across from him. She had an upside-down American flag draped over her skirt, and it was torched with cigarette burns. Jonah was half checking her out, fighting back his tears. She noticed. The girl sat across from him. She had several facial piercings. There was a moment's pregnant silence, then, "Are you okay?" she asked Jonah. No, not really." Another silence. "No," he finished. "What's wrong, if you don't mind me asking?" "Well, I haven't seen my daughter in 3 years," he began. "What did you do to her?" she burst and shouted all at once at the top of her lungs. Jonah's face broke into pain and fury. He almost threw his hot coffee into her face. Instead, he bolted out the rear entrance and threw the coffee against a red Mazda Miata. Then he collapsed to the ground, gasping for air. "Oh, it's okay," a man's voice chimed in, chuckling. Jonah immediately recognized it as the voice of a menagerie bartender with whom he'd had a one-night stand several years prior. "In 20 years, you'll still be on your hands and knees." Jonah attempted to stand, fell against the Miata, pushed himself to his feet from against it, took off running towards the corner and shouted back at the man, "Yeah, why don't you go fuck yourself over it? Think of me." Jonah somehow survived long enough to make it around around the block and back to the front of the coffee house. He was breathing heatedly. He said to himself, "What the hell is wrong with everyone tonight? I'm going to win the fucking Nobel Prize." As though he were an undercover cop tailing Jonah, a yuppie sitting at a table nearby shot him down, wielding a sardonic tone. "And then you woke up." Jonah turned and his tear-soaked eyes at the young man. "Why? Do you not believe Nobel Prize winners exist? You shit-slick dummy." Jonah spit on the concrete at the man's feet. Bawling by now, Jonah turned back into the grind and practically fell into the nearest available chair. After some time, his tears were dried. A party of 4 people approached from where they had bought their beverages and congregated around the coffee table where Jonah sat, breaking. One member of the group, a paper-thin redhead with green eyes, was pointedly paying Jonah no attention, rambunctious as she gesticulated and flirted with everyone. Jonah tried not to, yet looked despite himself. Jonah covered half his face with his hand. "Not another asshole." He closed his eyes. "Don't look." He was startled when the redhead suddenly gripping his right leg between her thighs, just above her knees, almost straddling his leg with a weird smirk on her freckled face. "Hi," she blurted out. "My name's Leah." A beat. Then she informed him perkily, "I'm a tease, but I never pleased." Jonah started, not knowing whether to try and laugh, then realized he was caught in his own throat, his eyes wide and obvious. "Hey, hun," Leah told him. "Whatever's wrong tonight, things will be better tomorrow." Jonah was silent as he held back his re-emerging tears. "Okay," she insisted. Jonah could do nothing but nod a vague kind of nod. "Good," she agreed. "Well, we're leaving. We got to get out of here, but I'll see you later," she told him. After she and her party had left, a calm grin emerged over Jonah's pained expression. Full moon in Libra, fuck. And my wild love went writing.